Hey everyone, welcome back to FAR and DFAR's Procurement Power. I'm Eric Marquette, back in the studio with Paul Natopsky. Paul, feeling ready to dig into the contract manager's toolkit today?
Always, Eric. With everything changing so fast in federal procurement, it's easy to feel like you're stuck just trying to keep up, especially when you're on your own. That's where professional associations come in. The National Contract Management Association, or NCMA, really stands out here. It's not just a place for networking either. If you're looking for standards, guidance on FAR and DFARs, or just trying to figure out best practices, it's all under that umbrella.
Totally. I think a lot of folks assume associations are just another LinkedIn group that clutters your inbox. Guilty of that myself, honestly. But NCMA actually offers a lot more. There's access to learning materials, conferences where you can meet folks who've steered these huge contracts, and you get real talk about what's changing day to day in federal acquisition. Plus, all the stuff we keep mentioning on this show, like flow down best practices from last episode, those resources actually come up in their member libraries.
Exactly, and that continuing education aspect is huge. Personally, I rely on groups like NCMA to stay up to speed on regulatory shifts. I'm not just talking about memorizing new clauses, more about connecting with others who've negotiated similar contracts or worked their way through a sticky FAR interpretation. If you're serious about contract management, those relationships really matter. And just to add, there's also the Contract and Commercial Management Institute, or CCMI. Now, they're a bit broader, serving global members and pushing for strong ethical standards across public and private sectors.
Right. CCMI feels like a natural fit if you're working with international contracts or just want exposure to more than federal rules. They advocate for transparency and ethical practices, stuff that translates no matter what country you're in or what agency you're dealing with. I know some folks who started there and picked up approaches that totally changed how they manage supplier relationships, especially with all the compliance pressure these days.
And, not to go off on a tangent, but those ethics standards, it's easy to underestimate how much that matters, especially when you're deep in the weeds with DFARs. But these associations aren't just for show. They set the bar for how we're all supposed to operate.
So, Paul, I think it makes sense to talk about certifications next. Because let's face it, the alphabet soup of CPCM, CFCM, CCCM, it gets confusing fast. But these are more than just letters after your name. They actually open doors. NCMA offers all three. The Certified Professional Contract Manager, CPCM, is kind of designed for folks who want to show they really get both the practical and theoretical side of contracting. The Certified Federal Contract Manager, CFCM, dives deep into FAR, while the Certified Commercial Contract Manager, CCCM, yeah, you guessed it, focuses on UCC and commercial best practices.
These certifications really do make a difference, especially when you're navigating government roles or moving into the private sector. People see those and know you've put in the hours to actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And, let's not forget, even if you don't need the piece of paper, the structured study process, those prep courses, flashcards, study groups, it's all time spent building a foundation you can rely on when contract language gets, well, let's just say ambiguous.
Oh, and I have to share this. Recently, I interviewed someone for a mid-level contract admin job. She just cleared her CPCM, and she told me bluntly that she would have tapped out of studying if it weren't for the NCMA peer group she joined. They had virtual sessions every week, folks quizzing each other, sharing practice questions, griping about the study guides. She said it made all the difference, not just for the test, but in real confidence at work. So, not just for newbies.
That's absolutely right, Eric. Let's circle back to CCMI quickly. They've also got paths for folks looking to become certified contract and commercial managers. Their training's pretty modular too, lots of online curriculum, so you don't have to travel or blow your whole annual training budget. It lays a base if you want to grow from foundational concepts up through advanced practices. And CCMI's approach isn't just about memorizing definitions. They want people to actively engage with scenarios and real contracts, which is pretty valuable for both new and seasoned professionals.
Yeah, that practical angle is something we've talked about on other episodes too, like when we dug into COTS and commercial item definitions. That stuff sounds dry until you have to apply it. Having structured courses or modular resources helps demystify it so it sticks when you really need it. All right, let's talk about what you do after you join these associations or get the certs. Because, Paul, you and I both know it's really about putting resources to work, not just having them on your resume. NCMA's website, for example, is kind of a goldmine. Tons of webinars, toolkits, checklists, guides. There's stuff for total newbies, but also reference material for pros who, let's be honest, occasionally forget which clause triggers a flowdown. No shame, it happens.
Oh yeah, I've been there plenty of times myself. I'll admit, even with decades in the field, those downloadable checklists or updated guides have gotten me through tight compliance reviews and a couple of tricky negotiations. They're not theoretical. They're built on what people actually see in contracts week in and week out. And Eric, we were talking about this earlier, but member directories and forums might sound secondary, but that peer support is real. Sometimes the fastest way to get through a DFARS headache is to reach out to someone who just dealt with it last quarter.
I couldn't agree more. And, when you show up at an NCMA conference, or even just hop into a webinar chat, you get these real unscripted stories. Folks share lessons learned, sometimes horror stories, sometimes clever workarounds. Even outside of formal training, just being in that flow of information keeps you sharp and might lead to your next job, or at least a new mentor. So, joining these associations pays dividends beyond just a toolkit download or a study guide. It's bigger than that.
And conferences, Eric. I know people sometimes think, oh, another sales pitch. But when you go, you realize it's an opportunity to exchange real strategies, debate clauses, or just confirm everyone else is also confused about the new flowdown language, right?
Oh, for sure. Getting plugged in really is half the battle. Well, I think that wraps today's deep dive into contract management resources. If you found something useful or want us to explore a tool in particular, send us a note. Paul, thanks for sharing your expertise as always.
It was a pleasure, Eric. Always good to keep the mission moving forward with you and our listeners. See you next time.
All right, everyone, keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next episode of FAR and DFAR's Procurement Power. Take care.